So today's topic is Chalukyas of Patami, Venki and Kalyani, and then we will move to other regional powers, and then we will study the Gupta Empire today. Okay, these are the three topics that we will be studying today. First, let's begin with the Chalukyas. So, the Chalukyas of Patami, the Eastern Chalukyas of Venki, Western Chalukyas of Kalyani. Okay, these were the three Chalukyan kingdoms that existed at different times, at different locations, but they are all Chalukyas. Baba la pacha jaigana ala kingdom found krushe na iniga la cases kana asede. So as you can see here, this is the Chalukyas of Patami. Their main center being Vatapi. Vatapi and Patami is the same. And second is this Venki and Chalukyas of Kalyani. Okay. Now the first Chalukyas of Patami, it starts from 543 to 753 AD or CE. Now, if you look at the Chalukyas of Patami, this is the first and original Chalukya dynasty. Of the three dynasties, this is the first, and its capital is Vatapi, which is the modern Patami. I've explained to you yesterday, in present-day Karnataka. Okay. Now, the famous rulers are Pulakesin I, Kirtivarman I, Mangalesha I, and Pulakesin II. Now, I've talked about the battle between the Pallavas and the Chalukyas yesterday. Pulakesin II defeated Mahendra Varman of the Pallava dynasty, Mahendra Varman I. And then, after the Pallavas were defeated, the Pallava king Narasimha I took revenge against Pulakesin II and defeated Pulakesin II. So, initially he defeated the Pallavas, but again the Pallavas defeated him. And once he defeated him, the Pallavas under Narasimha Varman conquered Patami or Vatapi. And then Narasimha Varman, since he conquered Vatapi, the capital of the Chalukyas, he was known as Vatapi Konta. Right? Vatapi Konta. So, do not forget that. Now, the important thing about Pulakesin II is that he defeated Harshavardhana. I mentioned about that yesterday. We will move to the he defeated Harshavardhana and established Chalukya supremacy. I mentioned about the defeat of Harshavardhana by Pulakesin II. Okay, we will study in detail in the following few slides. And if we talk about the Eastern Chalukyas, okay, now you look at the period of the Chalukyas of Patami, 543 to 753 BC AD. Now, the Eastern Chalukyas, it emerged as a feudatory branch of the Patami Chalukyas. It was a branch of the first original Chalukya, and it ruled. Now, you will find that, it was. You will find in the following slides that about how they broke up from the Chalukyas of Patami. Okay, now the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, they rose after the decline of the Rashtrakutas. You will learn about the Rashtrakutas in the future classes that we take. It rose after the decline of the Rashtrakutas, and the capital is Kalyani. Region, I've shown you in the map, and its founder was Tailapa. Okay. You will learn about all these three in detail in the following few slides, so I will not explain it much. All you need to know right now is that this is Patami, this is Venki, and this is Kalyani. Okay, Patami was the first original Chalukya kingdom, and Venki was a branch of the Chalukya, but one of the prince, one of the prince founded the Venki Empire, and the Kalyani, it took advantage of the decline of the Rashtrakutas. Okay, but these are the three kingdoms. Now we will study about the Chalukyas of Patami. Now, if you look at the Gupta Empire, okay, of North India, it spanned from 320 to 550 AD. Okay, So the Chalukyas rose at almost the same time as the Gupta Empire declined. I hope this makes sense. After the decline of the Kadambas, which we will learn about in the next few slides, and the weakening of the Gupta power in the Deccan, a new power emerged in Karnataka, the Chalukyas of Patami. Now the Gupta Empire was, the main stronghold was North India. They also controlled parts of the central India in the Deccan region, Deccan Peninsula. So after the decline of the Gupta and the Kadambas, new power emerged in Karnataka, the Chalukyas of Patami. They established the capital at Patami in Karnataka. Patami is also known as Watapi. Okay. Now, if you look at the kings, who was their first king? Pulakeshin I. He was a founder of the Chalukya dynasty. Okay. He defeated the Kadambas of Panavasi. But Kadambas of Panavasi is part of the other regional power section that I mentioned yesterday. We will be studying about. I created a separate section for these small regional kingdoms because they're not too important. Okay, there's just 1-2 facts that you need to know about these kingdoms. So he defeated Pulakeshin I, defeated the Kadambas of Panavasi and took control of the territory and laid the foundation of the Chalukya kingdom with Patami as his capital. Okay, now his son Kirtivarman I, son and successor of Pulakeshin I. Okay. His inscriptions at Aihole and Patami, it mentions his victories and gives the Brahmins. You will learn about the Aihole inscriptions, or Aihole, and Patami inscriptions. So the next ruler of the Kirtivarman is Mangalesha. Again, nothing much to know about Kirtivarman and Mangalesha, but Pulakeshin II is the most important one of all the kings. The only thing you need to know about Pulakeshin I is that he defeated the Kadambas of Panavasi, and he was a founder of the Chalukyas of Patami. Okay, but the most important ruler was Pulakeshin II. He initially contended with his uncle Mangalesha for the throne. If you look at the family line, Kirtivarman's son was Pulakeshin I, and Kirtivarman's younger brother was Mangalesha. So after Kirtivarman passed away, Mangalesha usurped the throne. The actual heir to the throne was Pulakeshin II, but Mangalesha usurped the throne, and then initially Pulakeshin II was very young and he was okay, but in the end it was Pulakeshin II who won against Mangalesha. Okay. Now, after 609 CE, he emerged victorious and became the greatest ruler against Mangalesha, and became the greatest ruler of the early Chalukyas. Greatest ruler. This marked the beginning of the Chalukya expansion and imperial power. If you look at the map, the expansion and consolidation before Pulakeshin II's reign. Under Pulakeshin II, the Chalukyas defeated the Kadambas, the Kadamba territory. This is the Kadamba territory, and controlled much of northern Karnataka. Okay, this is northern Karnataka. And Kirtivarman extended their influence and strengthened the sea. By the time Pulakeshin II came to power, the Chalukya kingdom was well established and ready for expansion. Okay, and so it expanded towards all sides, and he conquered almost all the territories. Now, let's take a look at Pulakeshin II and Harshavardhana. The expansion. What you need to know is that in the conflict with Harshavardhana, now Harshavardhana, after consolidating his empire in North India, aimed to extend his control into the Deccan. They fought against each other, Harshavardhana and Pulakeshin II, and Pulakeshin II defeated Harshavardhana. And so Harshavardhana's empire in the north was so large, but he was no longer able to extend his empire towards the south because of the defeat against Pulakeshin II. And this Narmada River was the boundary line for Harshavardhana's kingdom, okay, in the south. The Narmada River was a boundary for Harshavardhana's kingdom in the south. So his expansion was stopped by Pulakeshin II. And this is a very, very big achievement for the Chalukyas. Okay, it's mentioned in the Ehol inscription, which is a prashasti written by Ravi Kirti, the poet of Pulakeshin II. It mentions about his victory over Harshavardhana in that inscription. Okay, the Ehol inscription. You will learn about that in, yeah, this is the Ehol inscription, which was composed by Ravi Kirti, the court poet of Pulakeshin II, and this is the most important source for his reign. So the most important inscription is the Ehol inscription, the most important inscription of the Chalukyas. And Ravi Kirti was the court poet of Pulakeshin II. That's another fact that you need to know. And this Ehol inscription describes Pulakeshin II's victories over Harshavardhana and other kingdoms, and it's written in Sanskrit, and the script used was Kannada. Okay, so these are the facts that you need to know about Pulakeshin II and Harshavardhana. Is that clear? Now, Chalukyan administration, economy, society, and religion. Now let's look at the administrative structure. The Chalukyas followed a hereditary monarchy, which means it was based on lineage. Okay, the crown would pass over to the king's son, and the cycle continues. He was assisted by his council and officers in administration. So there were different types of officials. You can go home and research on that. I will not be wasting too much time. Maha Samanda, and there was another Samanda. All these, they were local chiefs. Okay, Samandas were local chiefs. Maha Samandas were chiefs of a larger territory of the Chalukyan society. Okay, these were simply local chiefs. They had a feudatory system. These were feudal chiefs, feudal lords. And Dandayan Naga would be a military general. Or Dandan Naga, when we talk about Maha Danda Nayaka, okay, let's try to understand what this means with first Danda Nayaka. Danda Nayaka is usually either a military commander or a judge. He would serve two roles. Okay, whenever the situation arises for him to be a judge, he would serve as a judge, and whenever a situation comes for him to be a military commander, he would be a military commander. Now, Mahadanda Nayaka would be the supreme commander of armed forces. Okay, he was the supreme commander of the armed forces, and also served as the chief justice, the chief judge of the Chalukyan society. Okay, so these were more military, and in the sense that these were feudal lords, and these had both military as well as judicial functions. Okay, and you can learn about the rest. It'll be mentioned in your notes. Now, provinces and local administration, it's almost the same, okay, as with every South Indian kingdom. The Rashtras were divided into Vishayas, districts under Vishapatis. It's the same as the other kingdoms. Below that were Nadus. You know about the Nadus district, and Kampanas, the sub-district, and then Gramas, villages. Okay, so this is the provinces and the local administration. The land grants and revenue system, Agrahara, Pramadeya, Palichandam, Devadana, Jivata. Of this, Palichandam is very important, and these were land grants given to the Jains. And Pramadeya, I think I've explained that. Land grants given to the Brahmins. Okay, land grants given to the Brahmins. So these were the types of grants that were present. And although I miss some of the explanations, these are important types of grants. I try to mention all the grants, all the important grants in the presentation, even though time is of the essence. So the grants were often tax-free. Okay, tax-free grants were known as sadvriti. Okay, so land tax is bhaga. The term bhaga, land tax, it's popular across North India as well as South India. Okay, you will find that in northern kingdoms as well. Now, agriculture. Again, nothing much. These were the main crops. They had irrigation tanks. Agriculture was the backbone of economy, and the same is the case with every other kingdom. Trade and commerce flourished, and I also talked about if this kingdom is located in Karnataka, then the trade would be towards the Arabian Sea. And how does a kingdom conduct trade using the Arabian Sea? By linking it with countries such as Oman, and by linking it with empires such as the Roman Empire, right? We talked about going from sea to Oman, from Oman to Alexandria, Alexandria to Rome, okay? So I will not explain that. For South India, anyone who conquers the coastal areas, they are the ones that control the trade. So the explanation is the same, okay? So like I said, I explained that feudal lords, the Samantas were feudal lords, and then Mahasamantas would be higher than Samantas in the sense that they would be lords of a much larger territory. Okay, they paid tribute, provided troops, and supported the king in times of war. Okay, in return, they were allowed to rule their own territories. See, feudatories, they were like mini kings. Okay, this is one of the reasons why the kingdom of Harshavardhana eventually declined. Okay, because the feudal lords, they rose in power. Okay, even Rashtrakuta was one of the feudatories, and you will also find that some of the kingdoms of south were once feudatories of a particular kingdom, but then they rose in power, they revolted against the king, and then they became a different territory, a different empire. Okay, so feudal system was good as well as bad during the ancient times. Religion, society, and culture. The Chalukyas were patrons of Hinduism and Jainism. We got to know that they were patrons of Hindu and Jainism through the Hindu temples, and this Jain Basadi is also very important. Okay, and if we look at why they were patrons of Jainism, this is another proof, right? The Pali Chandam, which was land grants given to the Jain monks. Okay, land grants given to the Jainas. So this was also decentralized, right? Provinces and local administration decentralized. So what you need to know, the key and basic takeaway is that they had a very strong administrative setup from center to village. Okay, land grants helped in loyalty and resource mobilization. Land grants such as Pali Chandam, Brahmadeya, and so forth. Okay, irrigation, trade, and agriculture. Patronage of Hinduism and Jainism. So for religion, you need to know that they patronized Hinduism and Jainism. They had a prosperous economy based on agriculture. Agriculture was a backbone, agriculture and irrigation, and they trade with various countries. Like I said, Oman, the Central Asia, and the Roman Empire, and so forth. Okay, and the strong administrative setup from center to village. You could talk about the Nadu and other. You could talk about Rashtra, Vishayas, Nadus, and Gramas. Now, let's move on to the next page, the Chalukyan art and architecture. Okay, these are the important caves and temples. The Patami caves, it is located in Patami, the Chalukyas of Patami. They might likely ask you, they might not ask you about whether these Patami caves belong to, were built by that king, but most likely they might ask you the location and the kingdom that it belonged to. Okay, the Patami caves belong to the Chalukya kingdom. Okay, and caves were dedicated to Hinduism and Jainism. They patronized the Hindu and the Jain religion, so it's obvious that the temples would also be Hindu and Jain. Ehol temples. Okay, the Ehol or Ayavol was the cradle of Chalukyan architecture. In the Ehol temples or Ayahol temples, 6th to 8th century, more than 125 temples are inside this. Okay, they followed both Nagara and Dravida. You will learn about Nagara and Dravida in the art and culture section. Okay, where I will also not only be explaining the different art forms, but different architectural forms of different period. We will be studying about the different schools. We will be studying about the different kinds of architecture. Nagara belongs to North India, and Dravida belongs to South India. So Dravidian architecture would have a kind of structure that's not curvilinear, but they call it Vimana. Okay, Vimana, and then North India lado, Nagara lado, all of Pulina tagoina, curve na, all of curve. So they call it Shikara. Okay, so this is the main distinction of if you look at a temple and if it's straight in a sharp as then I would do a Travidan as but all of Pulina in a Tagiledo, I would do Nagara as now very easy to differentiate. Okay. So yet the Kumba the sharp tago, Kumba the Utondo a little curvilinear na Utondo curvilinear, which means North Indian la architecture type follow kurese, but some would be sharp. Okay. Virupaksha temple. Okay, this is another Patatakal. Yade Virupaksha temple, Mallikarjuna temple, Papanatha temple. Okay, these are the temples that are very important. You need to memorize all these temples. Okay, mainly built by Pulakeshin II and Vikramaditya II, and UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Utondo, you will eventually learn about all UNESCO Heritage Sites. So, yeah. Oh yes, there's the explanation. So curvilinear, Nagara, Rekha, Shikara. So a little curved, a little curved, a little curved, whereas pyramidal, sharp as you do. Okay, so that's this is the main differentiation between the south and north. And these are the sculptures and important temples to remember. Okay, you need to memorize all these 6 temples for your examination. And this is another very interesting fact about Patatakal that I've explained earlier. Okay. Now, yeah, we will switch to Eastern Chalukyas of Vengi. It was founded by Vishnu Vardhana, okay, the son of Pulakeshin II. Pulakeshin II laga pacha tagishe. He was appointed as the viceroy of Vengi. Okay, viceroy of Vengi. He soon emerged as an independent ruler, and this marked the spread of Chalukya influence to the fertile eastern coast. Okay, eastern coast. Now, as you can see, Pulakeshin II, the ruler of the Chalukyas of Patami around this area, tala pachai tate la Vengi la viceroy thakishe, aro the viceroy ba tai independent ruler aishe, ina ingena tala kingdom the spread ushe. He founded the Chalukyas of Vengi. Okay, is that clear? Yeah, 624 to 1075. Okay, so these are the kings. Nothing much to learn about these kings. The Chalukyas of Vengi is very minor topic. Okay, the Chalukyas of Patami is important, but the Chalukyas of Vengi not too important. Okay, so they maintain very good relations with the Cholas. That's another very important fact about the Chalukyas of Vengi. Okay, now the regular intermarriages created close bonds. In short, stability and shared political interests led to a cultural synthesis between Deccan and Tamil regions. Okay, so they had very good matrimonial relations with the Cholas. So if you look at it, relations and conflicts, the conflict was very frequent for the control of Vengi. Okay, the Cholas often intervened in succession disputes, but diplomatic marriages strengthened ties. For example, the Chalukya king Raja Narinda, his daughter Amanga married Rajendra Chola I. Okay, this is another important fact. Okay, why is it important? Raja Narendra is not important, but Rajendra Chola is very important. Okay, we learned about him yesterday, Rajendra Chola. Now, administration of society very similar with the Chalukyas of Patami. Okay, same culture, same food habit, same everything. So again, this Nanaya, he is the author of Andhra Mahabharatam. Okay, this is one of the greatest works in Telugu, so you need to know about this as well. Okay, so this is it. Decline, internal succession struggles weakened the kingdom, continued conflicts and Chola interference. In 1075 CE, the last Eastern Chalukya ruler, Raja Narendra III, was defeated by Kulutungka, the Chola ruler of mixed Chalukya Chola lineage. Okay, Vengi was finally absorbed into the Chola Empire. So the Chola Empire began at around 9th century AD, right? We learned about the Chola Empire that started ruling from 9th century AD all the way up till 13th century AD. Okay, so it was one of the Chola rulers that defeated the last Eastern Chalukya ruler, Raja Narendra. Okay, and Vengi was finally absorbed into the Chola Empire, which is why parts of Vengi, the Chola Empire was around this size, right? Now, another Western Chalukyas of Kalyani from 973 to 1190 AD. Okay, again it was founded by Tailapa II, and he was a feudatory, again feudatory of the Rashtrakutas who declared independence. Even the Rashtrakutas were feudatories that declared independence, and Tahanla Pitorniwe, the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, was also a feudatory of the Rashtrakutas, and eventually they declared independence. Okay, they captured Manyaketa, the capital of Rashtrakuta, and established its rule. Tailapa captured Manyaketa and established his rule. This marked the beginning of the later Chalukyas of Kalyani. Okay, so these are the features of the Kalyani. It is in Karnataka, and it became the capital of the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, and it was a well-fortified city with strong walls, tanks, and temples. Became an important political, cultural, and economic center in the Deccan, the Kalyani city. Okay, so these are the kings. Nothing much to know about them. Vikram Aditya VI is the greatest ruler, and this was the golden age of the dynasty. Okay, so we will learn about Vikram Aditya VI here. In 1076 to 1126, he defeated the Cholas and asserted Chalukya supremacy in the south. He conquered Vengi for some time, but again the Cholas, they took it back. Okay, the Cholas, they took it back. But he is considered the greatest king because he defeated the Cholas and asserted the Chalukya supremacy in the south. Okay, the decline of the Chalukyas of Vengi was because Vengi was completely absorbed into the Chola Empire, and eventually the Chalukyas of Kalyani arose once again, and within the Chalukya of Kalyani, King Vikramaditya VI arose as the greatest king, and he was the one who defeated the Cholas and asserted the Chalukya supremacy in the south. He conquered Vengi, but again his successors were weak, so the Chalukyas again took back Vengi from the Chalukyas of Kalyani. Okay, so these are the key takeaways. Founded by Tailapa II, capital Kalyani. Okay, Vikramaditya VI was the greatest ruler. Okay, Acharya Vishnandeswara's Mitakshara is a landmark. This is another book that you need to memorize. Okay, and they declined in the 12th century, overthrown by the Hoysalas. You will learn about Hoysalas in the following few slides. Okay, so this is all about the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani. All you need to know is the founder was Tailapa, and Vikram Aditya VI was the greatest ruler. Capital was Kalyani. Okay, and Western Chalukyas of Kalyani were former feudatories of the Rashtrakuta kingdom. These are the 4-5 points that you need to know, and the important book is Acharya Vishnandeswara's Mitakshara. Okay, these are the facts that you need to know about the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani. Now, other regional kingdoms. This section, alak panay diside, alak kan bana. So it won't follow the chronology. As you can see, if you look at the table, other regional powers. So 4th century to 14th century. Utu ansok machudi asde, but chutu hoagane tik yade mon purul as. So don't get confused. Okay. I hope there will be no point of confusion. Other regional powers, we will study around five of them. Yeah, other regional kingdoms. Katambas of Banawasi and the Western Kangas. Okay. It was mainly based in Karnataka. Now, Bishivi Janule Nalagire Udulana, the Katambas of Banawasi. Founder, you need to know about the founder. they existed between 4th to 6th century CE when the Kalavras ruled. Okay, certain territories of Karnataka, northern Karnataka, were controlled by the Katambas of Banavasi. Okay, so now Mayura Sharma is the founder. Is also known as Mayura Varman. Its capital was Banavasi. Another important fact, and that's it. They patronized Hinduism. That's it. It was a kingdom that patronized Hinduism. And Western Gangas, you need to know that this is the, now it's not given in the NCERT, okay, but this is generally agreed by historians that Konkani Varman Mathava. I've searched in NCERT and I could not find the mention of Konkani Varman Mathava in NCERT, but almost all the coaching centers as well as almost all the historical sources, scholars, they say that Konkani Varman Mathava is the founder of the Western Ganga. Okay, so we call it Western Ganga because we need to differentiate it from the Eastern Ganga of the Kalinga dynasty. Okay, this is called Western Ganga. Its early capital Kolar, later capital Talakattu. Southern Karnataka, this is northern Karnataka, this is northern Karnataka region, the Katambas, and Western Ganga is in southern Karnataka. Okay, so yeah, that's it. They were patrons of Jainism. So Western Ganga is Jainism and Katambas of Banavasi, Hinduism. Okay, so these are the facts that you need to know, and the temple that you need to know is the Madhukeshwara temple Banavasi, Komateshwara Pasati, Talakattu. Okay, these are the only facts that you need to know about the Katambas of Banavasi and the Western Gangas. Now, another regional kingdom after the Katambas of Banavasi in the Western Gangas is the Yadavas of Devagiri. Okay, the Yadavas of Devagiri. So, the origin and the rise. Okay, they are also, the Yadavas are also known as Suna dynasty. Okay, another name for Yadavas is Suna. Again, they were also initially feudatories of the Rashtrakutas, and later the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani. Okay, and then they broke off and ruled the region around Suna Desa, present Marathwada. So this is the region where the Yadava kingdom ruled, and nothing much to learn about the rulers. Trita Praha, regarded as a founder or the earliest ruler. Again, this isn't mentioned in NCRT, but I've mentioned that. And now it was Bilama V that established the Yadavas or the Sunas as independent sovereign rulers. It was him who declared the sovereignty of the Yadava kingdom, not Trita Praha. Okay, the king. The first sovereign king of the Yadava kingdom is Bilama V, not Trita Prahara. Okay, the founder could be Trita Prahara, but the first sovereign ruler is Bilama V. Okay, ini differentiate kuro lagi. Yade mistake kuro do. Nah, so this is another very important distinction, and the kingdoms were divided into Mandalas, Natu, and Stalas. Okay, kind of like province, Natu district, and Stala sub-district. Okay, and that's it about religion. They followed Hinduism. Okay, and Kaka Sahib tank irrigation. When it comes to irrigation of public works, Kaka Sahib Teng is very important. Okay, and they patronized Hinduism, and they declined because of the repeated invasions by the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, Alauddin Khilji's Malik Kafur, the same, attacked Devagiri in 1294 CE. Okay, the ruler Shankara surrendered Devagiri to the Delhi Sultanate in 1323. Okay, now if you look at he shifted the capital to Devagiri. It was Bilama V who shifted the capital to Devagiri. So the first capital of the sovereign Yadava kingdom is Devagiri. Okay, Devagiri was the main stronghold, but eventually the southern expansion was led by Malik Kafur, okay, the governor of Alauddin Khilji. Okay, Alauddin Khilji of the Khilji dynasty. I talked about that yesterday as well, about the Delhi Sultanate. We have the Mamluk, the Khilji, Tughlaq, Said, and Lodi. The Khilji dynasty was the second dynasty of the entire Delhi Sultanate. The Khilji dynasty wanted to expand the empire to the south, and they sent Malik Kafur. Okay, so it was the Delhi Sultanate that brought about the decline of the Yadavas of Devagiri. Now, another regional kingdom is the Kakatiyas of Warangal. Okay, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, they originated in the Telangana region. Okay, Warangal is in Telangana. The Kakatiyas of Warangal, and initially feudatories of the Rashtrakutas, and later Western Chalukyas of Kalyani. So the Yadavas as well as the Kakatiyas, both of them were feudatories of the Rashtrakutas, and after the Rashtrakutas were defeated by the Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, they became feudatories of Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, and after they became the feudatories of Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, they broke away free and declared their independence. Okay, so that's the connection. Early family leaders, Peta Raja, the first prominent leader, and Prola 1, 2, we don't need to know that, and Rudra Deva, okay, he was the one who declared full independence and established the Kakatiya sovereignty. Just like Bilama 5 of the Yadavas, Rudra Deva or Prataparudra 1 was the first sovereign king of the Kakatiyas of Warangal. Okay, this is the extent of the Kakatiya kingdom at its greatest. So it was a very large kingdom. Okay, I mean not too large, but large enough. Again, even for the Kakatiyas, it was the same. Delhi Sultanate, Malik Kafur. Okay, Pratap Parudra was taken captive, and then the Kakatiya dynasty was taken over by the Delhi Sultanate. Now Hosailas of Dwarasamudra. They emerged as a regional power in the Malnad region of Karnataka. Okay, 10 to 14th century. It was a powerful Kannada-speaking dynasty that emerged in Karnataka, built a strong kingdom, patronized art and architecture, and left behind a rich cultural legacy. Now, Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra emerged as a regional power in the Malnad region of Karnataka, initially feudatories of Western Chalukyas of Kalyani, okay, but later on they declared independence, and their traditional founder is Sala. But there's no actual archaeological evidence of that Sala was the founder, nor is it mentioned in NCERD. But traditionally, it is accepted that Sala, who is a legendary figure, okay, associated with the Hoysala origin story. So there's a story of Sala killing a tiger at the command of his Jain guru. Okay, so he's known as the founder of the Hoysalas. Okay, the historicity of Sala is uncertain. Earliest historical rulers appear in inscriptions from the 11th century. If you look at it, Vishnu Vardhana. Okay, he defeated the Cholas at Talakattu. He established Hoysala power in southern Karnataka. Okay, he embraced Vaishnavism, influence of Ramanuja. So the first sovereign king would be Vishnu Vardhana, not Sala. Okay, now the rest of the king, not too important, nothing much to discuss. Okay, so the same division, province, district, and sub-district. And after Vira Palala tree, okay, after Vira Palala tree, okay, there were internal conflicts, and during that time, Alauddin Khilji, of the Khilji dynasty, sent Malik Kafur, okay, and his general Malik Kafur to invade South India, and even this dynasty became the victim of the Delhi Sultanate, the same as the other two dynasties, the Yadavas as well as the Kakadiyas. Similarly, even the Hoysalas of Dwara Samudra became part of the Delhi Sultanate. Okay. Now, religion, they patronize Hinduism and Jainism. Vaishnavism and Shaivism is Hinduism, so you can study it as Hinduism, okay, and Jainism. Now, yeah, that's it. That's it about other regional powers. Now, we will move on to, okay, this is the, now we have covered the Chalukyas of Patami, Vengi and Kalyani just now, and we have also seen other small regional powers, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, the Hoysalas, the Yatavas, okay, all these, and the Katambas and the Western Kangas. These 5 kingdoms have been covered in the other regional power section, and we have also covered the Chalukyas of Patami, Vengi and Kalyani, and after which we will move on to the Gupta Empire. Now the Gupta Empire came after the Kushanas, right? After the Kushanas came the Gupta Empire. So we will learn about the Gupta Empire now. Yeah. The Guptas established the first great empire of the classical age in North India. Okay? They laid the foundation for political unity, economic prosperity, cultural efflorescence, and scientific advancement. If you look at the early Guptas, the Guptas were originally a ruling clan of Magadha. Okay? Here's a very important point. The early seat was at Patliputra. The exact origin of the Guptas is still debated by historians. The exact origin of the Guptas is still debated by historians. However, Sri Gupta is considered the founder of the Gupta line. Okay, Sri Gupta was a founder of the Gupta Empire. He was a feudatory under the Shunga Kanva rulers. Okay, after the Shunga dynasty and the Kanva dynasty declined, came the Kushanas, and after the Kushanas came the Guptas. Okay. Now, he laid the foundation of the Gupta power in the region of Magadha, and his son was Ghatotkach, the son of Sri Gupta. Okay, he extended Gupta influence. These 3 kings are, these 2 kings, are not too important, but it was Chandragupta who is considered the real founder of the Gupta Empire. Okay. He assumed the title Maharaja Thiraja, the King of Kings. This is the title of Chandragupta I. Another very important point. And by a marriage alliance with Kumara Devi, a Lichavi princess, he strengthened his position and gained the support of the powerful Lichavi clan. Okay. Now he issued call coins depicting the king and queen together. His reign marks the beginning of the Gupta era in 320 BC. So if you look at the map, the Guptas, they expanded their control over Magadha and adjoining regions. This is Magadha area, right? We talked about the Magadha after 16 Mahajanapadas controlling this area. Okay, so the Guptas controlled Patliputra, and they also controlled Ujjain. They also controlled Taxila. Okay, the gateway to the west. Okay, which is in present-day Pakistan. Taxila is not in India. Okay, so this was the extent of the early Gupta Empire. Okay, during the reign of Chandragupta Maurya. So Patliputra remained the imperial capital of the Guptas. Okay, Patliputra remained the imperial capital of the Guptas. Now, after this is Chandragupta, he founded the real Gupta Empire. He assumed the title Maharaja Thiraja, the King of Kings. His marriage alliance with Kumara Devi, a Lichavi princess. Okay, these are the facts about Chandragupta I, and about Chandragupta, about Samudragupta. He is known as the Napoleon of India. Okay, he was a very able and a powerful military ruler. Okay. Now, if you look at the Samudragupta's conquest, okay, he defeated the southern kingdoms, but he did not annex it. Northern kingdoms, he annexed it. Okay, and frontier states, forest tribes, and republics around this area were brought under his suzerainty, under his control, simply by his aura. Okay, he didn't even need to wage war. He went, he showed his face, and the people kneeled down. Okay, that was how powerful Samudragupta was. He didn't need to wage war. When it comes to the frontier states, forest tribes, and republics, everyone knew Samudragupta. So if he comes to your kingdom, you have to accept his sovereignty. So that was the aura of Samudragupta. Now, in the northern campaigns, he defeated and annexed the kingdoms of North India and established direct rule over these territories. In the southern campaigns, Dakshinapata, he defeated many southern rulers. These rulers were not annexed but were made feudatories and had to pay tributes. Okay. Now about Samudragupta, there is this thing called Prayak Prashasti, okay, which is an inscription. The Allahabad pillar inscription was first commissioned by Ashoka, right? Ashoka, and Utula inscription de hi kings kan alag kan aigena likhe do. So Utu Nishna Allahabad pillar inscription does not originally belong to Samudragupta, okay? But Samudragupta Utu time de do pura Gupta empire tai control kura time de do Utu pathor bi tala under de awu do. Tala control de awu do. To Utu pathor Ashokan pillars kan do tahan bi peche revere kura dakje. To the Allahabad pillar inscription, Allahabad pillar de, Ashokan pillar de, Samudragupta labi kiba ekta likhina for his legacy. Because all of them they know, right? Everyone's gonna research on those pillars. Everyone's gonna, kiman centuries chalibu the pillars they will stand the test of time. Ito karni Samudragupta bi tala naam bhalu bole Prayak Prashasti, okay, which is a eulogy in praising Samudragupta. It was composed by Harisena, tala court poet, okay, and also served as minister of Samudragupta. Tala battles kan, tala conquest kan, sob utu Allahabad pillar inscription de likhi na ase. Is that clear? Yeah. So the northern rulers he conquered and annexed. The southern rulers he defeated but reinstated their kingdoms as feudatories. They just need to pay tributes, okay? And other state accepted his lordship and paid tributes, okay? And forest tribes and republics won by his might and accepted his authority, okay? He was a brilliant military strategist and conqueror, which is why he's given the title Napoleon of India by V.A. Smith, okay, a historian. V.A. Smith. V.A. Smith was the one who gave the title Napoleon of India to Samudragupta. Forgot to mention that. So these are the titles: Maharaja, Dhiraja, Sarvabhauma, Parakramanga, Kaviraja, Ajata Shatru. Okay, these are the titles of Samudragupta, and all these titles have their own meaning, and you can research on those meaning. These are the titles that you need to memorize about Samudragupta, okay? These are the facts that you need to know. The most important one is the Allahabad pillar inscription, composed by, which is a Prayak Prashasti, a eulogy in praise of Samudragupta, composed by Harisena, his court poet and minister, okay? So he conquered the northern rulers, but the southern rulers, he kept them as feudatories. He gave them back the kingdom, but he made them feudatories, and these feudal lords will have to pay tribute to Samudragupta. Okay. Now Chandragupta II, Chandragupta, Vikramaditya, and the Zenith. Okay, this is the period when the Gupta Empire was at its highest, not only in terms of their expansion but also in terms of art and architecture as well as literature. If you take a look at the Gupta Empire, Chandragupta II is also known as Vikramaditya. Chandragupta II is also known as Chandragupta Vikramaditya. He took the empire to its greatest glory. He consolidated the empire, defeated the Shakas, and brought peace, prosperity, and cultural brilliance. Okay. Chandragupta II, this was the capital of the Western Kshatrabas, as we have learned in the past. So it was Chandragupta II who defeated the Shakas and captured the capital Ujjain. Okay. and this brought Western India, including Gujarat and Malwa, under Gupta control. Okay, it also secured important trade routes and ports here. Okay, important trade routes and port. And Fahin, he visited India during the reign of Chandragupta II. Okay, this is another very important fact. He was a Chinese scholar that visited India, and he visited India during the reign of Chandragupta II. So in your examination, you might be asked, Fahin visited India during the rule of which king? The answer is Chandragupta II. Okay, and he praised the prosperity, the good governance and kindness of people, and so forth. Okay, he traveled widely in Patliputra, Mathura, Ujjain, and other places, and he wrote an account. Okay, the account of Fahin, there's spelling though exactly the Fukuyi, it will be Kuide, and there are other spellings for his book, but pronunciation the alag because he went back and then he wrote the book, so it's a Chinese book, and then we have to try to transcribe it phonetically, and then the pronunciation might not be accurate, but Fukuyi na itu tala book ase. Okay, of Fahin. Now, other important points. Chandragupta developed the title Vikramaditya. Okay, and other points it won't be too difficult for you guys to know. I'm just skipping all the ones that I know you guys can cover on your own, okay, to save time and energy. So this is the central administration of the Gupta Empire. Okay, the Gupta kings were supreme authorities. They were assisted by the Council of Ministers, which are known as Mantri Parishad, and these are the important officials: Kumara Matya, Mahadanta Nayaka, and so forth. Okay, you need to memorize these terms. Okay, and provinces were called Bhuktis. Each province was under an Uparika. Okay, the provinces were divided into Vishayas. Each district was under a Vishapati. There were smaller units like mandalas and grammars, and it was controlled by the Gramika. Okay, and they also had a panchayat. And revenue system, these were the kind of taxes: Bhaka, land tax. Okay, generally 1/6 of the produce. 1/6. They're gonna ask you in the exam. Okay, 1/6 of the produce. Other taxes: Utranga, surcharge; Boka, in kind or cash; and Hiranya, cash payment. Okay, these are the taxes that you need to know about the Gupta Empire. The land grants given to Brahmanas, it's the same. Brahmadeya, Palichantam to Jaina institutions. I've already mentioned that the terms are used across North and South India. Okay, the same way. Brahmadeya to Brahmins, and to Jainas, Palichantam. Okay, these grants was usually tax-free. The grants were tax-free, and the tax-free grants were called Apariharya. Okay, and so this led to the rise of a privileged class of landholders and the spread of Brahmanical culture. Okay, so land grants were given to the Brahmins. A lot of land grants were given to Brahmins, and these Brahmins, since a lot of land were given to multiple Brahmins, these multiple Brahmins created a new class, a privileged class of landholders, and it also gave rise to the spread of the Brahmanical culture. Now, if you think about the Gupta age, it is known as the classical age of ancient India, the golden age of ancient India. The reason why they say this is not only because of art and architecture and so forth, but how can you not call Gupta age the golden age in a country dominated by the Hindus? Okay, the Gupta age was the Gupta kings patronized the Brahmanical tradition. Okay, so NCRT books everywhere it talks greatly about the Gupta age. So Gupta age is one age that you cannot miss out on. especially when it comes to central exams. They ask a lot of questions from Gupta age when it comes to ancient India. Okay. So this is the administrative structure. I've explained that, and the social structure. And the social structure, land grants given to the Brahmins. Women enjoyed respect in society. They could own property and take part in religious activities. That's also another important fact. They might ask you. The society was generally peaceful, okay, during the Gupta age, prosperous and culturally vibrant. Now you will learn about the different writers during the Gupta age. Varna system continued but became more rigid. The position of Brahmanas was highly respected, but the position of the Shudras that deteriorated, okay? They became worse. So this is the Brahmanical dynasty that patronized Hinduism, Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and all these were patronized by the Gupta kings, okay? It was a purely Hindu kingdom. And Varna system, although they were tolerant towards other religions, but their religion in particular, the Varna system, they became more rigid during the Gupta Empire. Now you look at religion, Hinduism flourished, especially Vaishnavism and Shaivism. Okay, Brahmanical traditions were strengthened. Okay, the Hindu, Buddhism and Jain continued to exist and receive royal patronage, but they were religiously tolerant towards Buddhism and Jainism. Okay. But the main religion was Hinduism. Kalidasa existed during his time, during the Gupta age. The greatest poet, okay, his famous work Abhishnana Shakundalam, Raghuvamsa, Kumara Sambhavam, and Meghaduta. Okay, these are the important works of Kalidasa that you need to know. Okay, Vishakatata wrote Mudra Rakshasa. Okay, and Phasa was also another poet, Shudraka. These are the writers that you need to know. And this book, Mudra Rakshasa, is very important. This is also another that you need to know. Science, Aryabhata. The first Aryabhata, Aryabhata 1. Okay? He wrote Aryabhatiya. He calculated pi approximately, right? Aryabhata. He introduced the concept of zero. Okay? So he also explained the rotation of Earth, that the Earth rotates on its axis, and made contributions to algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. Kalidasa, Aryabhata, Vishakadatta, these are important writers and mathematicians that you need to know. Gupta coins were mostly made of coal coin. Okay, this is the coal coin of Chandragupta, the archer type, and this is the coal coin of Samudragupta, the lyricist, the lyrist. Okay. The king would be holding a musical instrument, okay, and that's if a coin of the Gupta age is shown holding a piece of musical instrument, then that's the Samudragupta coin. Okay, he was a great lover of music. And Dasavatara temple, Deokar. This is a very important temple for the Gupta age. Okay, so Ajanta paintings also existed during the Gupta age. Ajanta, Ellora. These are the two. The Ajanta paintings in the Ajanta cave, the Ellora paintings in the Ellora cave. You will learn about Ajanta and Ellora later on. Okay, it's very interesting. I will explain that later on. The later Gupta rulers, the Kumara Gupta. Okay, Skanda Gupta. Nothing much to learn about this, but Skanda Gupta, he defeated the Huna inventions. That's one important point about the Skanda Gupta. And Puru Gupta, Narasimha Gupta, Paladia, and Bada Gupta, weak rulers. Nothing much to learn about them. In later Guptas, they became puppet rulers under Huna pressure, the Huns or the Huns. Okay, you will learn about it later on. And the Huna invasion, continuous attack by the Hunas from the northwest. Okay, this was another cavalry type military organization in the northwest that attacked India, similar to the Kushanas. Okay, the Hunas too invaded India from the northwest side, and these continuous attacks by the Hunas weakened the Guptas, and feudal tendencies, and again feudalism was one of the factors why the Gupta Empire declined, and decentralization, okay, weak successors, loss of territory, social factors, caste division and rigid social structure, and external pressure to Hunas, and economic strain, heavy expenditure on wars. So I hope all this makes sense. Now, legacy of the Gupta age, I've explained to you guys about Aryabhata. I've explained to you guys about Kalitasa. And Vishakatata, Mudra Rakshasa, and all that. So these points need to be remembered. Okay. Now, post-Gupta period. India after the Guptas. From the mid 5th century CE, the Gupta Empire weakened due to internal weakness and the Huna invasions. I've explained about that. And this is the post-Gupta period, okay? This. And that was the last of the remnants of the Gupta Empire. It became very small, okay? And it was later taken on by different kingdoms. The Mokharis, the Metrakas, the Pushaputis, okay? Major regional powers. The Mokharis based at Kannauj. The Metrakas ruled in Gujarat. Pushaputis, Haryana, okay? So these were the major regional powers that emerged after the Gupta period. So these are some of the facts of the Mokharis. The capital was Kannauj. Important ruler Isana Varman. Okay. And about the Metrakas of Walapi. Capital was Walapi. Important rulers Patarka dynasty. Rule over Gujarat and parts of Saurashtra. And famous Chinese monk Xuanzang. He visited Walapi and praised it as a center of education. That's another name for Xuanzang, okay? Hyunzang. So you can use either of these terms. He was a Chinese monk who visited Walapi, which is in Gujarat, modern day Gujarat, and he praised it as a center of education. Hyunzang is also another very important scholar, traveler, Chinese traveler who came to India. Okay. Now the later Guptas, these are the later Guptas and Pushaputis. I mentioned earlier that Haryana was there, a Tanish war in Haryana, and Prabhakar Vartana was the founder of the Pushaputi power. Okay, and Raja Vartana succeeded his father, and yeah, we will learn about the Vartanas right after the Guptas. Okay, Harsha Vardhana, he succeeded his father and established a large empire in North India. Okay, so after the Gupta Empire, the Pushaputis later emerged as the most powerful dynasty in North India. So, Metrakas, Mokharis, later Guptas, Pushaputis. So this Pushaputis is also known as the Varthanas. Okay. Their most powerful king was Harsha Vardhana. You will learn about Harsha Vardhana. So after Harsha Vardhana took over, he slowly conquered all of them one by one, and he founded the great kingdom. Okay, the Vardhana kingdom. So this would be the last that. Now, after the decline of the Gupta Empire came the Pushaputis. Okay, if you look at Harsha Vardhana, it's a very interesting story. Okay, So if you look at it, Prabhakar Varthana was the founder of Pushaputi power. So he had a daughter, okay. He had a daughter named Rajashri, and he had two sons named Raja Vardhana and Harsha Vardhana. Okay, so Prabhakar Varthana married his daughter Rajashri to Grihavarman, the ruler of Kanauj. So Rajashri and Grihavarman were married, living a very happy life. Okay, so but Devagupta of Malwa, he attacked Kanauj. Okay, and he defeated Grihavarman, and Grihavarman was killed. Okay, so and Devagupta, he took Rajashri with him, and he imprisoned Rajashri and attempted to dishonor her. In what ways? We have no idea. Raja Vardhana, okay, the brother of Rajashri, marched against Devagupta, defeated and killed Devagupta. Okay, but there was another ruler, the ruler of Kota, Shashanka, who deceived and killed Raja Vardhana during that period. And Rajashri, desolate and threatened again by Shashanka, fled and took refuge in the forest. And Harsha rescued. Lastly, Harsha, he was the one who rescued his sister Rajashri from the forest and consoled her. Okay, and after Harsha Vardhana defeated Shashanka, rescued his sister, came back home, the nobles and ministers of Tanishwar and Kanauj proclaimed Harsha as the king. Why? Because why Kanauj? He was only the ruler of he only would have been the ruler of Tanishwar, right? But Kanauj was the kingdom of Grahavarman, the husband of his sister Rajashri. But since he died, he passed away, so the kingdom of Kanauj was given to Harsha Vardhana. Okay, very lucky of him, but very valiant and very noble of him to save his sister and defeat the one who killed his brother. So that's how Harsha Vardhana began his life in such a glorious way. Okay, so if you look at it, Prabhakar Varthana, founder of the Pushaputi power at Thanishwar, Haryana. Okay, he was a very strong and able ruler, and Raja Vardhana was the eldest son of Prabhakar Varthana. He was a brave prince and able commander. Okay, he defeated Devagupta of Malwa, but was later killed by Shashanka of Kota. Okay, and Harsha Vardhana, the younger son of Prabhakar Varthana, his elder brother is Raja Vardhana. He succeeded his brother Raja Vardhana and became one of the greatest rulers in early medieval India. Okay, so Harsha's accession was the result of a series of tragedies and political challenges that he overcame with courage and determination. So this, UP and Haryana, Thanishwar and Kanauj, these were the two territories that he controlled. Okay. So this is the empire and military campaigns. The expansion of Harsha Vardhana's empire. His empire extended from Punjab, okay, in the west to Bengal in the east. From Punjab in the west, okay, all the way to Bengal in the east. Okay, and I talked about him not being able to cross beyond the Narmada river. Why? He was defeated by Pulakeshin II, the Chalukya ruler. He defeated Harsha Vardhana, and which is why his southern expansion halted at Narmada river as the border. Okay, so Harsha Vardhana's kingdom extended from Punjab in the west to all the way to Bengal in the east, and in the southern India, the Narmada river was the boundary. Okay, I hope it's clear. Harsha had a prolonged conflict with Shashanka, okay, the ruler of Kata. Now Shashanka, he was able to win the small battles and war against Shashanka, but Harsha could not conquer Kota completely. That's Kotanga, Shashanka of Kota. He was a very stubborn king. Okay, he could not be defeated completely. So he was not able to conquer Gotha, but he checked the influence of Gotha, and Gotha was no longer able to expand his kingdom while Harshavardhana was alive. Okay. Now Harsha attempted to expand his empire in the south. He was defeated by Chalukya ruler Pulakeshi II. So that's the overall story of Harshavardhana. Okay. Now, he was an absolute monarch. Okay, he was very strict. Okay, and he was an absolute monarch, but he took the help of ministers in administration. The empire was divided into Puktis, each under an Uparika. Below the Puktis were Vishayas, headed by Vishapatis. Further divisions included Patakas and Gram as the lowest unit. It is very similar to the Gupta period. Okay, so this is how the provinces and the districts were divided. Okay, officials and army. These were the officials. Okay, you can go home and you can research on that. Now, agriculture, obvious. Trade and commerce, obvious. Important trade centers were Ujjain, Valapi, Thanishwar, Kannauj, and Bodh Gaya. So the society was divided into 4 varnas and numerous jatis. Okay. Now, the 4 varnas we know about the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Okay. So jatis is it represents a real world localized communities. For example, if you are born as a member of a particular clan, you will be a member of that clan, of that jati. Okay, it's kind of like a subcaste. It's jati is a very generic term. It has multiple meanings. All we need to know is that this is strictly hereditary, okay, and it is based on birth. Okay, subcaste. So if you're born as a, let's say, in a family of letter workers, you will always be considered a letter worker. You cannot choose any other profession, which is why tomorrow tahando ekta business kole hota utu same business kore do na utu the jati system as they have this belief that if you're born in a family of letter workers, you should continue and you must continue to be a letter worker. So bachan educate grow, they'll send them to study BCom, MCom, and then they'll come back and take over their family's business. That's jati system, okay, by birth. Okay, so and also even endogamy can also be affected by the jati system. Marriage within the same community is encouraged. Okay, so so there are even though there's only 4 varna system, there are thousands of distinct jati system in India, thousands of distinct across different linguistic areas of India. Okay, each area will have a different type of jati. All we need to know is that it's an identity given to you from the time of your birth, and it could be an economic, it could be a social identity, whatever it may be. Okay, jatis are identities given to you at the time of your birth by your community, and it would be maybe a profession based, letter workers and so forth, or maybe social clan kan thakyo pare, but that's what jati is all about. Okay, it's about a classification of communities. So the society was divided into 4 varnas and numerous jatis. Okay, so Harshavardhana is considered the last great Hindu ruler. After that, Dangor Hindu ruler, the Imando Nahewo. Harshavardhana is considered the last great Hindu ruler. Okay, and after the Muslim kan Aijawo eventually, we will have a brief period of Rajputs, but Rajputs kando bishi chamla kingdom ekta thakisi. Dan Majude, Chakra kan bishi hoy degi, and they also have you guys watched one series, Prithviraj Chauhan? If you guys watched, he fought against a Mughal ruler. Okay, we'll learn about that later. It's very interesting. When I was little, there was a series in TV that showed the life of Prithviraj Chauhan. It was very interesting. You will learn about that later on. Now, Harshavardhana, this is the last great Hindu kingdom, and let's look at the religion, culture, and education of. This is the last second slide. Okay, so please bear with me. Um, the last great Hindu king, he was a devotee of Shaivism, okay? And later on, he became a great patron of Mahayana Buddhism, okay? He organized grand religious assemblies at Kanauj and Prayaka every 5 years. Tangwar ceremony organized every 5 years. And Nalanda, you see, Nalanda University existed way back, but it was during the time of Harshavardhana that it greatly developed. And Hyunzang, I mentioned about that, Xuanzang, he came towards the end of the Gupta period, but more so, Hyunzang is known to have researched the kingdom of Harshavardhana. Okay, so he stayed in India during the time of Harshavardhana and resided at Nalanda University during his stay in India. Okay. Now, Harsha himself was a great writer, and he wrote three. Okay, Ratnavali, Kriyatarshika, Nagananda. Okay, so these are the three works of Harshavardhana that you need to memorize. You don't need to know the contents of the book, but you need to know the names of the book. Okay, and his prominent scholar was Banapata, who wrote the biography of Harshavardhana, Harshacharita. Okay, Harshacharita. Okay, Banapata wrote Harshacharita. Okay, it gives an account of Harsha's life, court, and achievements. Okay, and Fukuyi was the name of the book of Fahin, right? And Siyuki is the name of the book of Hinsang or Yeonzang. Okay, so you might be, the name that they might use might be Xuanzang or Hinsang. Either way is the same. Okay, and Siyuki and Fukuyi, don't forget about that. So this is Hyunzang, okay, and he stayed in Harsha's court for several years and was treated with great honor. He traveled widely across India, including Nalanda, and observed society, religion, economy, and administration. Okay, his travelogue Siyuki is an invaluable source for the period. Okay, what does Siyuki tell us? It tells us about administration, which was efficient and well organized under Harshavardhana, and society was peaceful, law-abiding, and prosperous. Religion, Buddhism flourished, but other religions were also respected. Okay, Nalanda was a great center of learning with thousands of students and teachers. Cities and trade, cities were well planned, and trade was both inland and overseas. And Banapata, Banapata by Harshacharita. Okay, it is a biography of Harshacharita. And now, date of Harsha. Okay, Harsha died in 647 at Prayaka after returning from Kashmir. Okay, he had no direct male heir. Kunpi thanganay, dala descendants kanna. So after he died, his empire disintegrated. Okay, regional governors kan, feudatories kan, sab alag kan bra, nijor khuli luishe. North India again broke into several kingdoms. Okay. So after the death of Harshavardhana, what did I mention earlier? What was the capital? The Ujjain, right? Ujjain was the capital of the Western Kshatrabas, which Harsha conquered. And after Harsha passed away, okay, Ujjain became empty, and not empty in the sense that, but when Harsha was ruling, Ujjain could not be conquered by any other kingdom, even though all the kingdoms wanted Ujjain. The reason why everyone wants Ujjain is because it is a symbol of power. Anyone who controlled Ujjain had asserted a kind of dominance over North India. So after Harshavardhana passed away, there were different feudal lords, and of these, the Gujara Pratiharas of Gujarat, the Palas of Bengal, and the Rashtrakutas of Deccan. These three kingdoms, okay, they fought against each other for the control of Ujjain after the death of Harshavardhana. So tomorrow we will learn about the tripartite struggle, and there we will learn about the history and the kings of Rashtrakuta, the Gujara Pratiharas, and the Palas. Okay. Now let's go back to the beginning. Okay. Just wait a second. So today we have covered the Chalukyas, Apatami, Vengi, and Kalyani, and other regional powers, which includes the Katambas, the Western Gangas, the Hoysalas, the Kakatiyas, the Yadavas, and the later Pandyas. We have already included that in the Pandya revival, right? I've talked about that. And these are the 5 small kingdoms that we learned about in other regional powers. Now, instead of moving to Delhi Sultanate, we went to the Gupta Empire after the end of the Kushanas, right? And from Gupta Empire, we saw the post-Gupta period, the Metrakas, Vardhanas, and later Guptas, and Harshas and its contemporaries. We have learned about that. And tomorrow we will learn about the tripartite struggle, where you will learn about the Palas. There, Palas mentioned, Gujara Pratiharas is mentioned. All this will try to gain control of Ujjain. Okay, these 3 kingdoms, and actually defeat Korea couldn't be Najide last day though, and then be weak, and that those territories gets taken over by the Muslims. Okay, eventually. So